Today is Tuesday, August 30th, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Podcast.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Podcast. I am your co-host, Mike Schallau from Is Was Brewing, and I'm here with my co-host, Chris Quinn of Beer Temple. Chris, how you doing?
Getting better, and I'm amazed that it's been now, is it 2 or 3 weeks? I think is this 3 weeks now? No, it's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Starting to feel
good,
normal, like it doesn't kill to get out of bed, which is nice.
That's nice.
Yes.
All right.
Which is good.
Baby steps.
Which is really nice, because it's like, okay, it's only been 2 weeks. I was thinking it might be, like, if this had to be months, that would really suck.
Well, I'm sure your recovery was sped up by recording an entire podcast the day after you got in this accident.
Day of, technically.
Yeah, day of. Yeah.
Technically the day of.
Right. Less than 24 hours after.
Yeah. It was the same calendar day. But yeah, but I've been doing well, feeling good, getting better, and had some interesting stuff happen. Had to kick in my first door here at the bar.
Mm-hmm. Sorry about that.
Bust down a door. Yeah,
shouldn't have locked it behind me.
Yeah, I know. But
I wasn't even here. I'm just kidding.
No, it's okay. It was at a wedding. Fresh, who's been on the show, GM here, had his wedding reception here. Closed down the bar. Women's bathroom door wouldn't open. Who's in charge? Someone's got to literally kick the door in.
The joys of small business ownership.
First time I've ever done it. Yeah.
Did you feel like strong?
Oh yeah, loved it. No, I was telling you before. I've been asked that 2 or 3 times, and I said no. It felt like spending money, which is the truth.
Yeah. I know that feeling.
As I was doing it, I was like, oh, man, I'm breaking this door. Doors cost a lot.
Yep. And you have nice doors.
Yeah, we have nice doors. And then I also realized that, when you own a place and you have the reception here, and I was a guest, and people would keep asking me, what's happening with this? What's happening with that? And I was like, I don't know, man. I'm just a guest here. And eventually I was like, all right. It's either... The next person they're going to ask is the groom. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I can't let that happen.
Did anyone try to order a beer from Steven at his own wedding?
That would have been amazing. No, but the caterers came, or the delivery crew came. There were no caterers. And we're like, whoa. They had brought literally, I think, 2 times as much food as there was supposed to be. As a gift, but it wasn't a gift at all. It was a huge hindrance to bring food for 150 extra people than are actually there.
Oh, wow.
There's probably 50 pounds of hummus, and that's not an exaggeration.
Wow. That's a lot of hummus. That's like a drum of hummus.
And that was probably 1/8 of the things that they brought. Just so much. So 75 extra pounds of hummus. It was insane. So we had to move everything around. Who's in charge? Because we have a truckload still to deliver, and there's no space on all these tables that were set out.
Yeah, because you brought twice as much food.
So my shoulders probably visibly sagged. My head went down, and I raised my hand. I was like, all right. So
technically, I'm in charge.
So I was like, all right, Margaret. But the good thing was I did get some brownie points, because I was like, so you know what I say, and XYZ crazy thing happened, and that's why I wasn't home. This is the sort of stuff.
Yeah,
because there's an avalanche of hummus that just spilled because I stacked 7 steamer trays on it. And now there's a tsunami of hummus that just exploded everywhere that poor old Max has to clean up.
And clogged the door to the women's bathroom.
Exactly.
Right.
And then anchored it shut, cemented shut.
Right.
I did, yeah.
The hummus.
Not that you asked anything remotely about that. But
I don't remember what I asked now.
Yeah, I think you said, how are you?
Oh.
And then I just vomited all that information onto you.
So you're good.
So I'm great. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, released a new batch of Will Be today, which is like our flagship beer.
Yes.
Today, August is like our 3rd year of operation.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, 3.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
Oh my
3
God.
years since
I would
we
have
had the
guessed
release
like
party here.
18 months.
Yeah, that's what I wish it was, but it's been 3 years of doing this.
No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, but it's tasting great. We also released a new version of the Finer Points series, which was peaches, which is like the 3rd time we've done peaches, and it's the 10th volume of the series. But they're just
Cool.
peaches from Michigan are just so good and so perfect for that beer. And this time we kind of extended the aging time and increased the pound of peaches per gallon. So we let some of the microflora on the peaches.
I had some
ferment.
very young, very, very young version of that, I think, a little while back. Remember when my daughter just like randomly rolled into a brew day one day?
Yeah.
I think you were brewing that, right? Or something. Was there something
That might have been
with
apricot.
peaches?
That might have been apricot
Oh, okay.
or peach. I don't remember. Similar.
I don't know.
Could have been.
I will say, when you saying 3 years, when I started this business, it was so funny during the planning phase. You're doing the numbers, and even if the numbers are accurate, you're looking at it and you're like, all right, the first 2-3 years, they're going to be tight, and blah blah blah, and it like saying that rolls off your tongue so easily.
Right.
And I remember saying during that time, right about 2 and 3 years in, saying, I said the first 2-3 years would be tough, and living it is so much different than saying it.
Right. Yeah. It's just a number on a spreadsheet when you're looking at it.
So don't feel bad, because
Thanks
living it is so much different than saying it.
Well, I mean, we only intended to be doing what we're doing now for about a year to 18 months, and then extenuating circumstances kind of made it a necessity to continue operating in a lean way.
Right.
So hopefully we'll
Global circumstances.
yeah, hopefully soon we have some opportunities to move on to the next phase.
Right.
We'll see how those go.
We have a special guest, but so what are we going to do now? Are we going to introduce the guest, talk about the topic, or are we just going to go and talk about special beers? We should probably do that.
Should probably introduce the guest
Introduce the
and then
guest.
talk about beers we've had recently.
I should probably introduce the guest.
Sure.
but No, I take it back. I think you should introduce the guest.
Yeah, the guest for today's show is my dad, Doug Schallau. Dad, how you doing?
Couldn't be better.
All right.
All right. Well, you totally bust. The first-time guests have to introduce themselves, so you ruined it.
Well, that's only on the round tables.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good point of parliamentary procedure on that one.
No.
Yeah.
Am I done now?
Yeah, you
can
are.
go. You can
go. But Doug, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind?
Sure. Almost my entire career I spent in what I call human potential development work. First 30-some years in youth development in a nonprofit called Junior Achievement. And then I worked for 3 or 4 years with one of the legendary management gurus named Peter Drucker. Learned an awful lot from him. And now I'm doing a consulting gig where we created a membership organization. We've got about a half a dozen to a dozen multinational, very large companies, and we're trying to help them figure out the big companies to act like little ones, to be more innovative, to figure out how can we get this stuff to market quicker, cheaper, faster, all that
Crush
kind
the
of stuff.
budding competition.
Yeah, we
Stymie it.
call
one of
it
the-
disrupt before you get disrupted.
And it's one of the big companies that you're working with, Benny's? Because if it is, then
Like-
you have to get out.
That's why Miller Coors is switching to only bottle conditioned saisons.
We're working with more. We're working with
Total Wines, Benny's.
Bevmo, Total Wine, Benny's.
We actually did work with Molson Coors for a little while. Not anymore. So,
Well, thanks for coming on.
it's my pleasure. Thanks for
Yeah.
the
Yes.
invitation.
So you spend a lot of time in your life thinking about how to operate these businesses and grow human potential and do kind of mission statements and make sure the organizations were mission driven. I thought it'd be interesting to talk about how the beer industry is kind of maturing, both just as the industry would and because of the circumstances of the time, and then
Yeah.
Kind of go from when everything's just run and gun and ready, shoot, aim to kind of being a more mission-driven, kind of organized, grown-up business.
And that's really important, I think, nowadays. But what I think is more important, frankly, is to know if there's any beers that you've drank lately that you've enjoyed, or any beers that you're looking forward to drinking.
You mean other than Mike's?
No, like you can include that. I mean, hey,
I've tasted
nepotism is encouraged here.
Enjoyed his recent releases. They're delicious. Spent
Thank you, Dad.
the last couple of days in Wisconsin with some college buddies, and we drank a bunch of Spotted Cow.
Yes,
And
that's what
it's
you're
first time
supposed to do
I'd
there.
had. It's first time I'd had it
Oh.
on tap.
That's not true.
No, I'd
Yeah.
had Spotted Cow, but never on tap before.
You had it on tap with me one time. Remember we got lost driving to Dubuque and we ended up at that fish fry?
Oh God, that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, we were drinking Spotted Cow that day.
So the first time in memory that you've had it, I mean, that's an
That's
experience.
correct.
Having Spotted Cow on draft in, there's a little subliminal message to our guest. Thank you. On the mug. So
Can the audience see that?
no, they can't. They can't. That is, Doug is drinking out of my favorite mug. I'll just say that. So you're an honored guest if you're drinking that one.
Never felt more honored.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Maybe the only beer mug, coffee mug I've ever bought myself.
Nice.
So anyway, yeah, drinking Spotted Cow in Wisconsin is almost like a rite of passage in craft beer drinking, I think. And it's not the most whatever, but it might be the most Wisconsin.
It's
beer.
definitely the most Wisconsin.
Well, I mean, Miller's from there, and Pabst is from there, and
Yeah, but
stuff
those-
like that. But
those
that's
are so
the most
of the world at
yes,
this point.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Very cool.
I've had a beer lately that I really liked. It's from a brewery. I don't think I've mentioned them before on the show. It's hard to. We've done so many episodes. I can't remember if I've mentioned them or not. It's a brewery called Scratch. They're down in Southern Illinois, and we have a Sycamore Lager on from them. Which, man, not all their beers speak to me. I'll just tell the truth. Like I've probably had 100 different beers from them at this point, which is insane to say. But man, the one that they have on right now is so good. So such a treat when you have one of their beers, and it's just like so good at being what it's trying to be, but also completely unreplicatable, which is what I love about. Like nobody can make that beer.
Best tree lager.
Yeah, well, maybe not even. I mean, they have some others. They have that Eastern Red Elm or whatever lager, which is so good. It might not even be their best tree lager, but it's just so good, and such a treat to have a beer that is good, so good, but also just so absolutely unique. And I think that they make the most unique, unreplicatable beers in the world, as far as I'm concerned. I just don't know anything
Pretty easily, yeah.
because like goose, like people have had U.S. goose and blind tastings and been like, but I mean, can anyone be like, okay, I'm going to give you, a bunch of scratch beers and a bunch of non-scratch beers, and it's like you're going to be able to tell what the scratch
Those are the
beers
scratch
are.
ones.
Yeah, I mean, come on. How cool is that?
It's very cool.
So
It's
it's
kind
nice.
of like the ultimate, right? Of the thing if you're making a creative brewery, that you can say that about your beers, that they are very uniquely from your brewery.
I mean, I've been doing this show for 6 years or so, and I am no less geeked on that brewery. I mean, I didn't even know Fatheads back then. Think about that.
What's better then?
Oh, Scratch.
Oh, okay.
Come on.
Wow. What about that of King Julius?
Well, now you're talking.
Yeah.
No, I mean, as a thing of like actual importance to me, yeah, like I would be crushed if Fatheads stopped brewing, but I would go into mourning.
If Scratch.
Oh my God.
You would
And
probably shut the beer temple down.
I worry about it. I worry about it.
Yeah.
A lot. Like I do worry. Like I hope they're okay. I legitimately do hope they're okay.
If they announced they were closing, how much beer would you go down and buy?
I'll tell you this. I'm not going to answer that question because I don't want to think about it. And that is my true answer. I really don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
Because it would be
All of the beer.
oh, I mean it would be something I would think about for the rest of my life. That they're not around anymore. Which I don't know what more you can say about a brewery.
Yeah.
You know?
Highest compliment.
Yeah. His was too, same thing.
Sure, of course. Right. You can tell. I'm thinking about it now, and I genuinely can't remember if I said this one last week or not.
I've done it before, don't worry.
But we made I think I did. We made a collaboration with Griffin Claw up in Detroit. I did say this
you
last
did say
week.
this, but say it again.
I had another one
Late in the show.
What?
Was it late in the show?
Yeah.
No, it was at the same time. We just do enough of these where I'm like, I can't remember when they sent that to me.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
Well, wait till you say something 10 times and think you're saying it for the first time every time.
We made a saison with our friends up at Griffin Claw. It's still the thing I've had that I've been the most excited about because it's a very cool usage of new oak foeder. So it was a saison with the same, at least it's the first generation of the same yeast we've been using for a long time. So fermented really hot, done the way we do it with a bunch of cool grain from Sugar Creek into a new oak foeder for 3 months. And that was in there.
That's a lot for a new foeder.
It was in there on honey too, so it re-fermented on the honey, and then was taken out of the foeder, and there was like a really small dry hop on Sultana. I think I said El Dorado last time. It's all piecing it together, but to get some of this like pineapple character, because knowing that the new American white oak foeder is going to contribute like a bunch of vanilla and oak and pineapple.
And El Dorado is known for that like pineapple-y flavor. So I could see why you
it was Sultana.
But I could see why you would maybe have said El Dorado.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was Sultana, and it worked out like incredibly well, where it has that like
Never heard of Sultana.
kind of dry adult version of a pina colada, and like it also has some like American white wine vibes going on. It's really, really beautiful beer. And they're releasing it, I think, on Thursday this week.
Okay.
So I'll see if I can get. I'm going up there this week, not for that, to my girlfriend's family, but see if I can snag some from them.
Okay.
Yeah, I have some. They've shipped it to me, but I also want to go and support them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So then next week I'll be talking about this new collaboration with
For the next 2 weeks,
Griffin
you
Claw
mean?
that we did. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. So one more thing, like just kind of housekeeping stuff, is Doug. So you can now unquestionably affirm that Fade Master Surge is a real person. He is here, right?
Who?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Sitting to my right?
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We got that out of the way.
Yeah. Should we get into it?
Sure.
Let's go.
Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot, and so I guess I grew up with you talking to me about things like.
I guess I grew up with you talking
Talking to me about a lot of stuff, but thinking about things about like leadership and management and organizational, like not structure, but like how to get the most out of people, and how to have like a focused vision for companies. So to me, it seems to come naturally now, but I feel like a lot of breweries came of age in an era when the tide was just rising so quickly, and you were just trying to not drown in the kind of the success or in like the speed at which you were making new beers. And in a matured market and in a post-pandemic market, I think that it's going to behoove a lot of breweries to shift gears from gunslinging and just move fast break stuff, kind of Silicon Valley vibes, into more thoughtful, mission-driven organizations. And so I thought you have a unique insight that I've only really gotten to experience into why craft a mission, what should it do for your company, how often do you change it, just generally, like, how do you create organizational focus in a kind of a grown-up, matured company?
And can I start by asking, as a person who hasn't had somebody talking to me about this my whole life? So why, for a cool kid industry like craft beer that doesn't play by the rules, is something as something like this so important? Is a question I have.
Because, well, I think the simplest answer is to say it's a matter of making a decision. Do you want to be part of the past or part of the future? And if you want to be part of the future, and if you have more than 2 employees, they need to know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. And that's what a mission should do, is to define why you exist, why you do what you're doing. I ran a consulting practice for Peter Drucker that we would go in and help companies revisit their mission. And we did as many not-for-profits as we did for-profits. And most of them defined what. And when we saw that, we knew we could really help them. Because if you're just defining what, it doesn't really get to the soul of why you exist.
Like an example would be, like, a mission wouldn't be to make world-class beers or something, right? That would be a what mostly, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example that everybody probably knows, or 2 examples that I thought were very good. Obviously, Google's is to organize all the information in the world.
Mm-hmm. Big one.
That allows everybody in the organization to make good decisions. If you had something that was really muddy, murky, and you really didn't understand, and most of these that I would look at were a paragraph long, nobody knew what they meant. Mm-hmm. So they never knew exactly why they were doing what they were doing. And I think it's really interesting recently, maybe it's because of what's going on with the pandemic and more people working from home, more and more people want to work for a company that has a soul. And they want to know it's more than just making money. And I think if you can do a good job of clearly defining what your mission is, and then secondly, who your primary customer is, you can do quite well. And I did a number of these consulting gigs where we'd spend the first day arguing with senior leaders of these large corporations too about what the mission would be. And once we got consensus around it, it was an amazing energy release. And I mean, I can give you Peter Drucker comments all day long, but one of the things he said is that leadership is not about creating energy, it's about releasing energy. And the only way you can do that is be very, very clear about why you're doing what you're doing.
Well, and it's also a focusing mechanism, right? So that when you release the energy, making sure it's going in a direction that is beneficial to the company,
too,
not just bleeding into other
and the
things.
focus starts to really get clear when you define who the primary customer is. Mm-hmm. Drucker would say that can have many supporting customers, not secondary customers, but supporting customers. But until you define the primary customer, you'd never be able to optimize your organization.
And that's not necessarily technically traditional demographics, right? It's more,
Right.
It's more something like what the consumer wants out of experiences with your brand, right?
So you've lost me now.
So it's not like we are trying to sell to white males between 21 and 35. It's that we're trying to reach people who want to, who are excited by beers made with trees.
Right. Or
That might be a little specific.
Yeah. So it's like you're not defining your customer, you're defining a desire that you're going to hopefully fulfill or something like that.
Right, because then it transcends gender, race, and all that stuff. It's like it's more just people that feel the specific way.
Which is funny, which is how I would naturally think about it. I don't think of things in terms of like demographics. I more think of things of how we're doing it, and then I notice the demographics. But I don't then look at those demographics and then infer other things on it as well, but that could just be wrong.
Probably because you're doing it right.
I don't know. We've talked about my mission statement here.
We have.
Long ago. Yeah, I don't know if I might have said it once on here before, ever, but
What is it?
bring joy to people's lives.
Yeah.
I've even further refined it, and I think a lot of organizations could use this same one because, in general, in society today, I think
They can. I'll license it. They have to pay me.
a waning lack of joy in general. Things have been crazy, right?
Right.
So, I like even further refined to say to create repeatable moments of joy. Mm-hmm. So it's not just one beer. It's not just
which is
one
exactly
thing.
what you said to me.
Yep.
Create repeatable moments of joy.
Yep.
And it's funny because people may think joy means like, going down a water slide or being on a roller coaster, but I just mean like that little moment where
You're drunk.
yeah, you're drunk. Yeah, you're hammered. You're hammered. No,
I'm kidding.
it's really a retail. I mean it in a retail setting more than a tavern setting, which is also maybe why I should revisit it because it's a retail thing where I want people have so many heavy things that happen in their lives, like just really important things, and to have the luxury to go into a specialty shop and talk to someone about something that you care about and have this moment of like, oh, I'm interested in what's in here and I want to try it. And sometimes it may meet expectations. Sometimes it may not meet expectations. And sometimes it may exceed expectations in a direction you weren't expecting, and that's the best.
Yes.
That's the scratch moment right there. It's where it's like it exceeds it, but not in the way you were hoping
Exactly.
to. And like those moments are like the best.
Yeah, and I mean, and there's another example I think of this kind of stuff with Starbucks. You've probably never seen a tagline that says the third place. Mm-hmm. But internally, what their true north was, we want to be our customers' third place. You got home, you got work, and we want to be your third place.
And geez, I mean, if anyone, they've achieved that.
Well, and the beer
routine.
temple's the third place,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's a transferable thought,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Very
there's
cool.
a weekly Dungeons and Dragons game happening as we record this podcast.
That's true.
Which is usually happens in living rooms, but they feel more comfortable here.
That's right. It's
pretty cool.
That's right. Yeah. No.
I also think
has
you do-
happened for years.
if you do a nice job defining, and for this kind of industry where you're looking at startups or whatever, new breweries or whatever, it's okay to not have anything because you're just doing what you like to do and all that. But when you hire that second employee, then the third, then the fourth, you want them to be all on the same page. And sometimes if you do it really well, it'll repel some people, which is fine. But you want people to want to be part of your mission.
Can you give me some examples and maybe, and Mike, if you understand what your dad's talking about, maybe help focus it towards the beer world. What does that? Yeah, what? What do you mean by that?
Repelling people.
Yeah, that may repel people and stuff like that. Because that scares me, frankly.
I think
Because I'm cowardly about that sort of stuff. Frankly, I am. Yeah.
for a more complete package is a clearly defined set of values. And I'm not talking about 15 or 20. I'm talking about 3 to 5. And that more than even maybe sometimes the mission statement will either say, I don't want to be part of that, or I can't agree to that, or whatever, but clearly defined values. And those are clearly things that leaders need to define. We talk with Procter & Gamble, and they go through all these processes. You don't need to do that, because you can define, it defines what your culture will be, how you treat your customers, how do you, that kind of thing. And again, if those are clearly defined and very concise and understandable, people can make good decisions day to day without having to ask you or Mike, you at his was or whatever. It empowers them to behave properly. And it also allows you to say, we believe in these values and you really violated this one. This may not be the place for you, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? But when it works, you've got it's to the energy release thing. It's amazing. I've seen it when we've done these things, and it's just amazing how different it is.
It is interesting. I'm not trying to make this so everything kind of gets filtered in an autobiographical way, right? So that's how certainly I interpret things, and it's funny because the Beer Temple isn't like my utopian beer store, but there is certainly a shared idea of what it is, and everybody really does a beautiful job of working within that scope, those values or whatever you're talking about. But it's like it has drifted. I don't even know if it has drifted. It's just been maybe interpreted and frankly improved upon versus how I would have interpreted it. And now it's like, I mean, it's not even. So the way I think of it is like maybe I planted the seed, but like I haven't been like, I'm not the person like. If it's like a bonsai tree, I'm not the one like trimming it and taking care of it and stuff like that and nurturing it. Like it's mine, but it's not mine anymore. It's like it's its own thing now, and it's like Steven's and Max's and Ryan's and everybody's.
That speaks to the idea of having your values and displaying your values, even if yours weren't necessarily like written down in a missions, visions, values type way, but things like how you would get rid of out of code beer and be very public about it, and you would publicly rate and talk about beers, and like you're very like, this is something that we do. So that attracted a specific type of person who also was like, oh, that it's not just about, this place isn't just about making money. Certainly that's a reason it exists. But
a necessity.
It also empowers those people to make decisions that are a little bit different than if you're working at a larger box store or something like that, and they can feel more part of a community because the leader is displaying the values of fresh beer and treating each other well. Because I think you had offered health insurance for people more than earlier than most breweries I know did.
It's a liquor store. Yeah.
And
so we didn't even have this.
That's an unexpressed value of how you treat your employees, and that extends to how they treat their customers.
I guess so. I don't know. That I'll almost push back, because that in a way it was selfish, because I just had to go to sleep at night. And that sounds silly, but like I had to go to sleep, and I couldn't go to sleep if I wasn't offering those sort of things to people.
I think that's definitionally a value. Like it's something
maybe. Okay.
That's a value.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Well, then
you want these people to you want the people that work for you to
I think a great example, if you have a defined set of values, for example, let's say a batch goes bad. What do you do? Do you just not tell anybody and let's hope nothing happens? Or do you pull it? So those are defining moments,
I remember there was the show that Sam Calgione had from Dogfish Head. And one of the first episodes was there was a batch of, I think, 120 minute.
Yeah.
Probably their most expensive beer to make.
Right.
Didn't taste bad, but it didn't taste to spec.
Right.
And they dumped the whole fucking batch. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine?
I mean, I've dumped probably an equal percentage of my annual revenue.
Right.
Because it didn't taste good.
Right. So is that normal? I mean,
No,
so explain that to maybe people out there listening, because I'm not aware. Like, it seems
it's not
amazing,
normal, and it's not something you want to have to do.
Oh no!
But and it's also something. In our particular case, we made a smoked beer, and it was just too smoky, and it wasn't that it was a bad beer. It just wasn't the beer we wanted to make. And there's certainly times when a beer comes out differently than I thought it would, and we don't usually dump those. It's not like I have a very specific, singular vision for every single beer has to come out this way.
And in your stage of brewing, and also in the type of beer that you brew, and also the nature of the experimentation and the I'm not going to say one-offs, but I'm going to say the first times of so many batches, I would think it's part of the process for it to not be as it was in your brain the way you started it. But anyway,
and that happens relatively frequently. I mean, anything we blend, that happens very often. But you have to taste it and be like, is this something that I would be happy having our brand on? And is it more valuable to get the, whatever amount of dollars for this batch than it is to put something out into the world that people will taste and think that is your standard? And especially for my brewery, where it's expensive beer. Like they're small batches, and the bottle, it's individual bottles, and they're, $8, $9 to up to $17 sometimes. If you put something in that and you burn someone, that's way less valuable than getting that 1 month or that revenue.
I think it gets to, can your customers trust your brand? And the most extreme example, and everybody probably remembers it, is the Johnson & Johnson Tylenol situation. They knew they had an isolated bad batch, and it was really, I don't know if it was killing people, but it was really bad. They pulled every bottle of Tylenol off the shelves everywhere. And to this day, they're still known as a brand you can trust. They have what's called their Johnson & Johnson Credo, which violates Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker said your mission statement should fit on a T-shirt. Theirs is about a paragraph, but it's their credo that's been around forever, and there was never a single doubt in anybody's mind what they needed to do when that Tylenol thing happened.
Right, and that's certainly a different circumstance than having a beer that doesn't taste good.
Right,
That's something that could
kill people.
Those are things when you're actually operating and running the business you have to weigh. Right, will my business go bankrupt if we release this beer that doesn't taste exactly like I want it to taste? Well, then you should probably release that beer if there's nothing else wrong with it, and it just wasn't the thing that you wanted it to be. Or to the scale of is this going to injure people because it's going to blow up? Or is this going to injure people, make
Ford
people
Pinto
sick?
or,
yeah. Right. So those are all there's all levels of that for sure.
All right. So let's start getting a little bit more beer focused. Why in a, like you were saying, Mike, in a freewheeling, cool industry, or an industry that used to be cool and presumably wants to be cool again, do you want to do things as uncool? Is that a mosquito again trying to buzz around me? Something as uncool as posting a mission statement and a set of values when you are 5 people deep, and also dealing with young people and dealing with alcohol and stuff like that. Well, I mean, that's
Can I answer with why I think it is? It depends on how and why you're doing it, right? If you just write a mission statement and then you post it to your Slack, and now you expect everyone to behave the way that you now are the whole company's vision and values and mission, that's completely different than doing it to create a more cohesive vision amongst everyone and sharing it with them and helping everyone understand and seeing who's buying in and who's not, and why, and then maybe refining it when you see that that isn't exactly working. If it would be uncool for it to be some sort of edict. You behave this way now because we have this mission, whereas it's more like we believe these things, so this is how we're going to move forward in this business.
Well, and as you're bringing people on, as you're expanding, whatever, the key question is, do they believe in what you believe in?
Right.
And if you have that clearly defined, it's a lot easier than if you have nothing defined. Mm-hmm. That's my point.
And it also holds, I guess, everybody accountable, because if you put it down as the person who's decreeing this, or whoever does, the group of people who's decreeing this, you have to hold yourself accountable to it, or else it will immediately be realized as fraudulent by certainly your employees, but also your customers. I mean, they'll realize that that's BS. Yeah. Which brings me to a point.
So are you saying doing this is risky?
Yeah, it is. Right. Yeah, it is. It's risky. You better think about it.
I think it's risky. It's equally risky to not do it in a growing business as well. You're going to attract people that are motivated, and if you have some sort of vacuum in the actual values and mission of your company, not that it has to be like super specific, but if you have a vacuum in that, people will start applying their own personal ideas of what the values of the company are to it and working hard for that. Mm-hmm. And then at a certain point, they might find out that that's not the actual values of this company. It's just something they imposed upon it, and they will burn out almost immediately after that.
So everyone who listens to the show knows that I'm a fanboy of Sierra Nevada and of what would you say? Fatheads. And one of the reasons, truly, is because my experiences with them have always jived with what their, unofficially, just the way that they put out what I would imagine their set of values, their mission statement to be. Mm-hmm. So, like, they project a certain thing, and then you talk to people, and it seems to be consistent.
Right.
And,
there's no way to have an organization that size where people all understand this to be true without some sort of...
Yeah. And Stephen and I, a couple of years ago, went there for like 3 days and were floored more than the operation of that place, which is amazing. We were floored by the set of values and how it had, like, everyone was like, yeah, this is what this place is about. And for an organization that big, I'd never experienced anything even close to that.
I'm just looking at
please.
their website, and it's very clear. They have mission is to dream, innovate, inspire, and empower the next generation to transform humanity through technology and imagination.
Wait, that's Sierra Nevada?
Yep.
Because that's what it seems like.
SNC culture. SNC, yeah. It talks about culture. It says values, integrity, innovation.
That might be a different company.
Agility, passion, service, and tenacity.
I think that might be a different Sierra Nevada.
It's their corporation. It's not them.
Be amazing.
Well, it sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. Anyway, there is a bug who's going to bite me, and I know it, and I'm very upset about it. So, anyway. Here's something that I came across. So, the opposite happens as well, right? So, you have Sierra Nevada. That is like one of the ones that kind of embodies kind of what they project, or what I perceive they project as. In a way, for me, like Dogfish Head, I think was really good about that. They sold to Boston Beer. I think even in the way they sold, I think they kind of like did as best as they could, given that situation. Mm-hmm. That might have just been me kind of projecting that onto them. But then you have people like Stone, right, who like project this hardcore thing. And this is, Doug, I want to ask you about, right? Okay. So this is one that happened today. So even as more than Stone, who is more hardcore about that stuff even than Stone? Like, also to like a marketing degree, like just so hardcore.
It's like a national brand.
International
brand.
International craft brand.
I don't know.
Brewdog.
Okay. Sure.
Punk IPA.
Right.
Beer for punks.
I think they've been proven that's their branding. That's not their actual, like.
Okay.
The way they
Fine.
behave.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they had somebody stop off today. And I don't feel like I'm blowing up any spots because this is something they're going around promoting, right? And so I don't know how much you know about Brewdog, Doug, but they were like, beer for punks is probably still their motto.
Right.
And very clever. Did very well in the UK market.
Trying to be a counterculture.
Counterculture, right. But also entrepreneurial. I mean, they've always been like
ambitious counterculture,
marketing savvy and stuff like that. So now, Doug, what they're doing is they've got a Game of Thrones beer coming out, which, that's okay. Haha. Who would you own? The gang? The gang already did that, this and that.
Lord of the Rings.
But they're also doing something. I don't know if they've if there's like a Warner Brothers or whoever has a tie-in, but they're doing a Christmas beer tied into National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and part of it is going to be that they're going to be handing out like Clark Griswold hockey jerseys or something like that as well.
Brewdog is doing this?
I mean, that's what this guy did. I mean, so much so that two different people who work here came up and were like, "Do you hear that?" Like old heads too. Old heads who were like, who knew this brewery and were more just taken aback by I don't even know. It's not fair to say it's 180. It's like 360 plus 180. Like you're just doing loop-de-loops, and then you don't know where you're going, and then you end up going in the exact opposite direction that you started. Because
it just screams of some sort of algorithmic. We need to like reach people and soften our image or something. So let's pay for intellectual property from two beloved things.
So, like, what happens then if your values, or at least your outwardly projected values, fair enough. I mean, maybe it was we take advantage of things that, I don't know. Maybe it's like, and this still is completely in context with what we're wanting to do. We were Beer for Punks, and now we're Clark Griswold
What's more punk
IPA.
than Family Vacation?
Right. Or maybe it wasn't really being a punk. Maybe punk was a way to like, we're here to like subvert people.
Sure.
And mess with them.
We're subverting the punks now.
I don't know. But like, we weren't the biggest Brewdog fans, but we kind of had like, all right, these guys have been around for a while. They make solid beer. Like I give them some credit. And then this happens and you're just like, you are done. You are a joke. You're done. You're done. Like,
I guess like how does something like that happen?
I'll tell you.
Well, the other thing that you're making me think is like maybe some people need to leave when you revalue. Like maybe the Beer Temple needs to leave now because we are not for you. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's intentional. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it,
Christ.
but it wouldn't be the first time that the marketing department was chasing revenue.
Right.
I mean, Lord of the Rings or whatever it is they're doing.
Might as well be.
Game of Thrones.
Co-brand,
Same thing.
whatever.
Let's be real.
And they don't even pay attention to what the roots were, or if they have a mission. I don't know if they have a mission or a set of values.
But is there a risk if you come up with a set of values you have to stay to it, right? You have to stick to it, right?
No.
And what happens if you don't?
Because lose trust in the brand. I think that's what you just defined.
Yeah.
Personally, that you don't trust them anymore because they said you're this, now you're this. What are you going to be tomorrow? Just chasing dollars. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing, I guess, because I don't know it deeply.
I don't know if you know this show, but all we want to do is hot take. So,
well, I think a good question off that would be, once you have this like set of this mission and values and stuff, how does it not keep you too rigid to do anything? Like, what if there's opportunities or it's a couple years down the road from when you had these things, like, there's a lot of stuff we want to be doing that we can't because of, or not that we can't, but it isn't necessarily mission driven. Like, how do you deal with things that are probably good for your financial health or even maybe your visibility as a brand that might not necessarily be perfectly aligned with your mission?
Well, even Peter Drucker says you should revisit your mission every 3 years. Mm-hmm. And that was a while ago. And he used to say that because he said things change. Customers change, markets change. And he used to say that the only reason for any business to exist is to fulfill a customer need. And so if your customer shifts, changes, whatever. So many people will revisit their mission every 3 years but never change it.
Sure.
Some do. I think it's perfectly okay to do that.
So what's the difference between what we were just saying with BrewDog, where they're straying from it, versus every 3 years you can just change it to whatever you want? So how can somebody, lose faith in your brand if you're potentially changing your mission statement every 3 years?
Well, I think it's more about acknowledging the reality in the marketplace,
Okay.
But, you do risk losing the trust of the brand, no question. But it depends how you do it. It's all on how you go about it, So.
And you're probably not making huge changes to this mission. If the mission was good in the first place, you're probably not all of a sudden being like, well, now we do the opposite, or now we do only co-branded content or beers and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what you're
should
saying,
be subtle realignments with what you're finding your market to be.
What I heard you say earlier, Chris, was how they define their primary customer, right? Mm-hmm. And so maybe that customer's changed. I don't know.
Maybe that customer's just not. Yeah, maybe they've slowly drifted away from their customer. Maybe they've left their customer. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. No.
The other thing is, if you're changing your mission statement every 3 years drastically, not that you shouldn't revisit it, but if you're changing it every 3 years, it probably wasn't a genuine mission statement to begin with. You were just trying to come up with what you thought the market thought would be cool, or what you're...
Right.
Yeah.
Mostly when people revisit is when something substantial happens to the company, whether they sell themselves to somebody else, and it's now part of a bigger, you know what I mean? Those kind of changes.
Or like COVID happens, and it's like, oh, nobody goes to restaurants now.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like...
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also important to note that a mission and your values and your vision don't have to exclude financial health, right? That can and often is part of that being a financially viable business.
I haven't looked at it in a year or so, but if you want to get an interesting example of what Mike's talking about, I think you may remember we talked about this, is Ben and Jerry's. And it's a 3-part mission. And there's a financial mission, which basically means if we don't make money, we can't do the other two. And they had a social mission, right? And they had a quality product mission. So they have to be in harmony, which is different. But I think it makes a lot of sense because
I do too.
The founders had very strong opinions about sourcing, and the environment and all those kind of things. That's a social mission. But if you can't, run a viable, sustainable business, you can't do the other two.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Yeah, you can't
So
source
it's a
anything.
good example, though. of
You
what
can't
you're
keep
talking
local dairy farmers in business if you're out of business.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And so I don't know exactly what the BrewDog example would be, but it wouldn't necessarily be against a mission to take those deals. And it's probably against their mission or their branding, at least, or their values that they've projected.
Right. It might not be against their mission, but it's definitely against their brand
And their values.
If they have a mission and they have a set of values, they don't publish it in the website. So I don't know.
BrewDog?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't be very punk.
I mean, it would be a prime example of, migrating away from something you said you were before because you really didn't.
I mean, migrating. This is like lemmings off a cliff, man. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, going from punk to we're going to be giving out Clark Griswold swag jerseys. Like, can you think? I've never heard of anything lamer. I don't put people on blast too often, but that is, if I heard this right, so lame, so tone deaf to craft beer. This happened just today.
Yeah,
so,
I don't know if
we were all just gobsmacked about this.
it's just so strange, and I don't know. Like it's
also like what does it say? That the two most obnoxious voices for independence have now sold out. And I don't know if Brewdog has... Well, no, they have literally sold out. They've literally sold out this way.
Yeah.
That is selling out.
sure.
If you're a punk, like the punks who hated it back in the era of punk music, who would hate people for selling out, that was fractional versions of selling out the way that's selling out.
Right.
The Clark Griswold jersey.
Right.
I mean, that would be like if like the Sex Pistols literally were performing like, New Year's Rockin' Eve at the Magic Kingdom with like, the floats, like on one of the floats, and doing it like sincerely.
It's great exposure.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's just it's so insane. It's
Yeah,
so
I mean-
insane. And you know what? I apologize if I'm getting any of this wrong, but like this is how it was. This is how the message was taken. So like, there's an issue if.
I mean, they're
And then thinking that we would think it was cool, it was just like, who, what? What are you doing?
They're probably a good example of a disingenuous, I don't know if it's a mission, but branding from the beginning. Like,
I think you're right.
it was a lawyer and another guy who had ambitions to grow an incredibly large company based on the ethos of, not even based on branding around the ethos of punk. It doesn't work it doesn't happen like that. That's not how punk is. Punk is almost inherently against that.
Right.
And so from the beginning, it was something where it's just like, this is bullshit.
Totally.
Yeah.
So this just happened today, and when I heard that your old man was going to be on, I was like, we got to ask about that, because like, what the hell is going on? Would you mind if we took a quick break so I could refill? I have a mission to refill my glass, and then we can continue perhaps.
Sure.
All right, cool. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Podcast. I'm with my co-host, Mike Schallau. I am Chris Quinn, and I'm with our special guest, Doug Schallau. How about that for a
There you
comment?
go.
That was,
You
that was
nailed it.
smooth.
You nailed it.
Probably the best ever.
Yeah, you were very excited about that one. It was great.
We saw a friend of the show, Chris Penna, during the break.
Yep. And Alexi.
And Alexi, guest of the show. Epic guest of the show. Should probably have him back.
Yeah. I mean, Scorched Tundra's coming up
It's true.
this weekend.
Well, last weekend, you mean? Well, the show still has to get out.
Yeah, depending.
2 weeks ago.
What a great show that was.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, best Scorched Tundra yet.
Man, I still remember that. I can't believe it was 2 months ago. So, Doug, you were looking up Brewdog's website.
Yep.
And can you repeat some of the stuff you saw on their website about their mission statement or their whatever they're calling it?
Yeah, this was published in May 2022. Okay, so it's
2022.
recent.
Very
right?
recent.
And it's a document called the Brewdog Blueprint. And it's subtitled Creating the, and this word is crossed out, beer. So beer crossed out, Creating the Beer Business of Tomorrow.
Okay, so creating the beer /
So basically,
business
creating the business of tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a grand statement right there. The business of tomorrow.
I think that's from Back to the Future.
Ah, right.
I'm just kidding.
Yes.
And they kind of take it
Where
from
we are going, we don't need ethics.
Yeah.
from a kind of
Did I just...
Nailed
was
it.
that a... no. Was it a spoiler?
of where this is headed.
Of how you feel about them. I think we spoiled that.
And then they kind of go from a 30,000 foot look with what I would guess would be the closest thing to a mission statement that says, for better beer, for a better planet, powered by the people, for us all.
Okay.
It's a little bit more in depth and different than Beer for Punks, which was their original.
Right.
No,
it is.
which is fine, but not better or worse. I'd say. I mean, I'm for real. Like, I mean, Beer for Punks. Okay, that could mean a lot of different things.
And that's more of a tagline than it is
Off-centered
trying to be
ales for off-centered people.
Right. Taglines.
We're not normal.
Yeah.
You know, it's not normal or whatever from Floyd's. I think you can have ones that are like that resonate. You know,
yeah,
it's not normal. And off-centered ales for off-centered people. I think both resonated with me as a beer drinker, frankly.
For sure.
Maybe Beer for Punks resonated with somebody else. To me, it always seemed a little like, I don't know if twee's the right word, but like, yeah, just like, really? Punks? Okay.
You're a $2 billion company.
Like Beer for Punks. A Beer for Punks would never say it was Beer for Punks. It would just be like,
it would just be the
weird.
cheapest beer.
It would just be like, whatever it is. Like, yeah, we're just going to do like crazy stuff.
Right. Extreme.
Yeah. To the extreme.
Right.
Double dry hop to the extreme.
Elvis juice.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm sorry, Doug.
No, it's quite all right.
This is how the magic happens. He's a long time listener.
Okay. So I apologize. So keep going, please.
Well, then they have a few subsections underneath all of this. For example, one's called Brewdog People Blueprint. As our people are the beating heart of our business, with over 2,200 team members based all over the world, making magical beery moments happen every single day.
Okay.
Repeatable moments of joy.
Yes.
They stole that from you.
Yeah.
I know.
And then they've got another program for bars, 50% profit share. I guess they have their own bars. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a tied house. Yep.
So their employees get 50% of the profits distribution at their bars. And then they have a Brewdog Alumni
On
Club.
top of salary, you think that is? I mean, that's pretty amazing.
I think so. And then they have a Brewdog Alumni Club. They've created the Brewdog Transparency Dashboard because they want to be perfectly transparent about everything, is what the words say. I don't want to read them all to you. And then they've got Hopstock Employee Ownership Program, so stock in the company for employees, that kind of stuff. And then they have this final piece that says Signature Brewdog People Benefits, and they enumerate 10 or 12 different benefits for their people.
Okay.
Such as you can take a sabbatical, such as the Brewdog salary cap, that no one can join our business for a salary higher than 7 times what our lowest full-time employee. I mean, this is, I've seen these kind of things all the time.
You're laughing.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Why are you laughing?
well, it's like you pull it off the shelf and put Brewdog on it, if you're a consulting firm. But private health care.
I also want to point out it said no one can join our company
yeah.
at 7. It doesn't say no one can make more than 7 times. It says no one can start
Correct.
at more than 7
That's
times
correct.
the lowest. So the guys that own it are still making it.
Then, of course,
and
they
people
have-
already were there.
They have a diversity, equity, and inclusion forum, employee representative group, internal promotion rate, top dogs.
Does this
enhanced
seem to
pension.
you like paint by numbers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think they very publicly got called out for being a toxic work environment in the last couple of years. And this seems very much like them.
A response to that.
Yeah. And being like, no, we're good people now. Look at this. So this is kind of like a weaponized bad version of what
The
we were talking
unfortunate
about.
thing, this is not a bad thing, but if it was in place before, they
Right.
wouldn't have had the problem.
Right, and this could be an example of why actually living by the mission and values of your company
Exactly.
can help you avoid things like this. And
Maybe being a punk is not okay when you get too big.
Right.
I mean, frankly, I don't know.
right, punk's a pretty toxic culture if you actually have to have 2,000 employees that are all not getting nihilistic, angry.
Right.
I don't see anything in this anywhere about punk.
Yeah,
That's
man.
pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah, that is.
That they've completely gone away from that.
So anyway,
Isn't that is interesting?
But yeah, this is an example of like, because they weren't actually living out good values, they had to then create this document that is performative. Like,
Let's say I'm sure some of the stuff, even if it was like McKinsey came in and said, this is what you need to do. Maybe some of that stuff was the right thing to do. I mean, maybe that thing was
Oh,
good to do, right thing to do.
None of the stuff in there is bad. All the stuff in there is great. And
No, there's some eye rolls for sure.
It seems disingenuous because it's like
Our employees are the
it's one of
beating
those-
heart of our company. Come on, man.
Are you apologizing because you feel bad, or are you apologizing because you got caught? Like that seems like more like we got caught.
Right,
So
that's a
now
good way to say
So now
that.
we have to like
To that point, digging just a little bit deeper, there's a paragraph in here that says, "We are determined to create a completely new type of business model, one where our team members are truly connected to the business and where every single person in the team benefits from the growth and success that we collectively create."
Well, let me ask
like that's
you, Doug.
fantastic on its face, but they're also
Sure.
known for creating quote unquote new business models where they supposedly sold equity in a company that no one could redeem. So like, I don't
Sure.
know. They're not. Yeah,
That's not
they're
good.
notorious for new business models and. Ooh.
So, Doug, let me ask you, in your history, does like drastic changes in ethos come genuinely from within, and can they work?
First of all, they typically come because of a crisis.
Well, that's what that screams of.
Some people will call it the burning platform syndrome. You got to change or you're going to die kind of thing.
Okay.
That's the extreme of it. But usually it's when some kind of crisis happens that you have to change or survive.
I mean, Beer for Punks to that is interesting, and I want you to finish. But it was also something that I think Mike and I mentioned maybe before the show went on. But it's like, what's the most I don't know. What's the most what aspect of that we could portray would be seen in the best light right now? Like, what are the things that would be looked upon? So, okay, like environmental equity. These are all the things that are seen to be the most genuine and good-hearted right now. So, those are the things that we now embody, and it's like.
Seems
that's
almost
cool.
algorithmic to pick
right,
these
algorithmic is such a good way to put it. Like, maybe it's genuine, but like if an algorithm had come up with it, they would have come up with the same things, and that's not very human.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
to say it's bad and is not fair, but to say it's like natural is also like it's a stretch, and you're gonna have to earn my trust back when you like make such a hardcore turn. Hardcore being one of their beers, hardcore
That was
IPA.
nice. You're a pro.
Yeah. Well, if other people had just picked up on it, but I don't trust my listeners. So
Ooh,
Wait a minute.
you bunch of dummies.
Ouch.
They know we love them. What was that? What was the question wrapped up in there? I think you
the
started by
question
your
was.
question.
The question was. So you said it comes by way of crisis, right?
Yes.
And
Large changes in ethos come by way of crisis.
right, and we're not saying that it's bad, but like, do you see these things often when it seems to be like this, as you were saying, algorithmic? One, stick, and two, be truly adopted, or is it more PR? Is it PR? In your personal opinion, I mean, I'm just asking you in your personal opinion.
I've seen both, and people will see through inauthentic PR moves in this regard. I mean,
I think that's what we're demonstrating right now is not believing them, is seeing through this inauthentic PR.
But, change happens, like I said, in crisis or change in leadership. I mean, a lot of times in large companies, maybe it's a bad example, when they bring in a new CEO, for example, they'll revisit the mission and all that kind of stuff. but they don't really modify a lot. They may be a little bit different on how they see their customer base changing, and so we're going to respond to it. But it's got to be authentic or it's meaningless, and you risk losing the trust if it's not. So,
yeah, I think one of the things about the BrewDog one is there's been no change in leadership. Like, it's easy to believe that they have a change in their vision and their values to this degree. If some other person took the helm of it, it was like, well, we have this huge organization that has a lot of power and a lot of financial ability to wield that power, and now we should focus that energy at something that's a little bit more philanthropic or altruistic or better for the environment or the people. But the fact that it's the same leadership saying, we got in trouble, so now we believe these things now.
I think I figured it
seems
out.
Disingenuous to me.
I think I figured it out. I think their value is to be perceived as young and cool.
Sure.
What do young, cool people value? You don't value punk anymore. You value this. But that's what we are now.
Sure.
Because that's what it certainly seems like.
Right.
This
is more. That's like just the positioning. They're trying to position their brand as like we're for kids. We're for not kids. For like younger people. And
sometimes people don't trust epiphanies of the same leadership. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
like
that's
they
what
wake
I'm
up one
saying,
morning
yeah.
and say, "Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say." They wake up one morning and say, "Ooh, we got to change." Okay.
Wouldn't a lot
but
of
it's much more when they bring somebody in new that they have a better chance of authentically implementing the change.
Well, wouldn't a lot of those epiphanies come from some sort of crisis?
Yeah.
It's very rare that you have an
No
epiphany
question.
to like change things when they're going as
and
as
it's
you
so
want them
fair.
to.
depends
That's
on
such
their
a fair
structure.
comment to make, I think.
Yeah.
The epiphany is caused by a crisis. But then if you're such a savvy marketer, show me that you had an epiphany. Show me you had an epiphany.
Yeah.
And that website shows me that your epiphany was pay an outside consulting firm to redo your
looks
vision
great.
statement.
It looks great.
Oh my God, the colors are like so right now.
Yeah.
Like the color schemes are like so right now.
Yeah.
But
Fonts?
for somebody who loves to get in front of the camera and just be goofy and do stupid stuff, like there's none of them, like at least not breaking through to social media or anything like that you see of those guys, the two owners, doing any kind of mea culpa.
In fact, like doing a little research in the in the break, it's kind of the opposite. It's one of those like non-apologies is what seems to be coming out of them. Like, yeah, we're an intense place to work, and like I always had the best intentions and like that kind of thing of like I didn't really do anything wrong. Like I just got caught and people didn't like how I did it.
Well, maybe
caught the
and
wrong
we're
way.
saying they did a mea culpa. I mean, they're not saying they did. I mean, that's us
Right.
saying like maybe there was a crisis and that's what happened. But it's like this.
Well, the crisis was that their brand wasn't going to be as valuable if they were seen as an abusive,
The
toxic place to
crisis
work.
is that their Christmas beer has a Clark Griswold jersey giveaway.
Let's not lose sight of the true crisis.
I mean, that has nothing to do with the earth dying or anything.
Yeah,
it has to
that's
do
true.
with
Eyeballs.
I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? Game of Thrones, like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't even do the good one. Omegang already did that.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, that happened like 6 years ago, bro. Like,
Right.
that train has left the station. This is the lame prequel that nobody cares
So,
about.
Chris, what would they do to attract
So
to
glad
get
you
new,
asked.
to get new attention, but stay true to what you believe their ethos and their branding is?
Forage beers for a lager.
You can't answer that for every brewery.
But it's true for every brewery. No.
Anyone on Rat Magic's Instagram, just start foraging tree bark for your lager, and you can be.
What could they do? Well,
Like, how do you stay true to that ethos and that presented values?
I mean, if you
While-
go to
while
first
not
of all,
getting stale.
if you go to 11, then
Where
you
else
better
you
go to 11, man. Like, that's you.
Right.
Like, we're punk. We're this. We're that. So, like, go to 11, and and I guess just be upfront. I mean, I don't know. Like, it will be so interesting if in 10 years from now, the Beer Temple and me personally are doing like the exact same thing, and then I can come back and like, hey, maybe Brewdog was doing this because now I see it from this.
When you have your Clark Griswold, what would yours
Exactly.
be? Yeah.
Exactly.
It would be a Jingle All the Way
What would it
sponsored.
be? I can't say who it be because I don't want to mention the brewery on air. But I'd be like, hey, me, I'm doing a promotion with this brewery that I love.
I know who it is.
Yeah, you know who it is. But
I guess it's another thing. Like, how do you? I guess maybe the answer is you revisit the mission and values. But how do you? If you are effective at espousing what your mission, vision, and values are, how do you continue to get attention in like a huge attention economy that is craft
well, let me
beer?
say this. So,
if you're just doing a really good job of being
attention
yourself.
economy is great. They were the best at it. At their most real to me, they
the
weren't
band Attention
punk.
Economy.
Yes,
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was a band.
They're not. I just made that up.
Yeah. Brewdog was creating kind of like fun, if not like flippant, like moments that got you like interested in their beer and like, you know what?
It was low stakes too, though.
It's
Right?
like, that is an interesting thing they did, that's silly.
Oh, they put in a
and-
taxidermied squirrel.
Right.
Right, that's not like offending. I mean, maybe I'm sure it offended someone, but it's different than like, they're verbally abusive to their employees. Like, that's
But they did stuff
in the
like
name of punk.
that. So like, why not keep doing those like whimsical things? Why not keep doing those marketing whimsy things that they obviously felt strong about, but do it for what they're saying? Like
the impact is totally different now, I think. Right? Like what's an equivalent thing they could do? Like they made the strongest beer. Like they put it in a squirrel.
oh, for them, what if we're taking like 1 bajillion pack tex or whatever it is, and we're going to put it into the Scottish Ocean to turn it, make a turbine to do something that like ultimately isn't going to do really it's a drop in the bucket, but it's going to do something, and it's weird and it's crazy, and you're like, wow, that's really funny and
genuine.
Cool, and it's like that's funny. That's funny, and it's like it is doing something. They could easily do stuff like that and be like weird, but steampunk.
The news cycle's so fast. Like they made a 42% alcohol beer, and everyone talked about it for 5 years. They make one wind turbine out of recycled Pactex, and it gets 43 minutes of content.
But so you're talking about my idea for them as an idiot podcast host. They're really smart people.
Chris,
they can come
you're
up
an
with
idiot
like
bar and bottle shop host.
Right,
Don't
exactly.
discount yourself.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? Like, figure out something. Figure out something to do that captures that same audience that you did time and time again.
Yeah, right.
But do it for your new ethos.
Right.
But you're not doing any of that. You're having like cool color schemes on your website.
Sure.
Which, guys, you got to check it out.
It's
I mean,
great.
the color schemes are
Popping.
right now.
They're popping.
They're maybe like just like 10 seconds ahead.
Maybe they're the color schemes of the business of the future.
I mean, maybe like 10 seconds of the future. I mean, they're very now.
They're very now.
They're certainly not looking forward.
How soon is now?
Yeah. No, but it looks like a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
Like their website looks like a PowerPoint presentation, which is very punk.
This was a deck about like their new mission, so it would look like that. You get very distracted by these mosquitoes.
Yeah, I'm not down with that. That's not cool.
Yeah, I think Miyagi needs chopsticks to get.
Yeah, I do. I mean, flies are one thing, but chopping a mosquito is another thing because that's
Let's talk for a second about maybe a couple of counter examples.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And not because I just drank a bunch of it the last couple of days, but Spotted Cow, they're very focused.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Wisconsin only, right? Mm-hmm. And they're dedicated to making a particular kinds of beer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very focused. It's not chasing something or a movie or anything like that. And they're very comfortable with that. And they can be quite profitable for quite a long time, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Including people that will, like they used to do with Coors Beer, go out and bring back because you couldn't get it anywhere but Colorado.
I would say it is like the new Coors Banquet of, or not the new, but it's like the Coors Banquet of Chicago. Where people go up there,
Midwest.
And bring it back.
It's the Coors of the Midwest.
And then the second one I would bring
in that
forward
Smokey the Bandit way.
is Hill Farmstead.
Sure.
In terms of focused on what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Our mission, change the beer industry by creating ripples of influence and introspection, and utilize our beer as a vehicle for sharing our values and ideals and promoting the tenets of conscious consumption, conscious belonging, conscious and commerce, and education and dialogue.
That also seems incredibly genuine and of that.
Right?
I haven't
person.
talked to that person.
And they've got a...
I've never heard him talk counter to that statement.
This is the true north for them, right? Mm-hmm. And they have, I'm not going to read it because it's a paragraph, but our vision, it articulates how they see their desired future state. It's a nice example, I'm telling you, from my background in doing this kind of work.
So Hill Farm has that, like their desired future state on their website?
Yeah, it's got our vision.
That's pretty cool.
As
we enter our 12th year reflecting back on our past decade plus of operations, we have opportunity to think about the changes we'd like to be part of in the next 10 years. We envision a future where all of our decisions are based on the social and planetary impact, and where our beer helps to cultivate connections, compassion, and purpose.
Jeez, I mean, can you get more McKinsey than that? I mean, it's amazing how, like, they're saying the same thing, but one thing is so true, and one thing is such utter garbage.
Yeah, what colors was that in, though?
You're right. No, that's
Brown
like tan
and white.
taupe.
I mean,
Yeah,
no,
taupe,
come
yeah,
on.
taupe, yeah.
Please.
If there's ever a brewery that doesn't need to publicly express that, it's them, right? People are coming. They're going to go and get their delicious
well, I'd
beers.
say one maybe above them.
Treehouse.
Scratch. Nobody needs it. They don't need to put their ethos out there.
No,
it's pretty obvious.
It's in every twig they put into the lager you're drinking.
It's exactly right.
But to know that like that is very obviously how they think and how they move throughout what they do. It's not simply just like, how do we make this the dankest, juiciest IPA?
And
that's important leadership.
It gets better. Their values, right? They have 7 pillars: awareness, belonging and trust. But I'll scroll down. Collaboration, deliberateness, inquiry, and stewardship.
Like that's all on the Hill Farmstead website?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they so good at everything?
I think because this is a genuine mission statement that they think deeply about why they exist.
This is exactly
place.
what I'm talking about. They've done a
Right.
very nice job.
Yeah.
You're talking about the Brewdog one now, right?
But
No comment.
This ties
Yeah.
it back to us starting earlier about how like why if you're only a 5-person company do you need this or like that? But they're not a very big company,
No.
right? And it doesn't seem like they have intentions to like this isn't some sort of thing they commissioned to be like we're getting suitors to buy us. So by being a mission driven company that's not just on like how good can we make the beer, it's more about all these other things as well. It helps you make the beer better.
Well,
It helps you make decisions about what you do make, what you don't make, and not just because like we're a Saison brewery, but because you have certain beliefs about the world and how you want to impact.
Why would you? And I've heard you say that countless times to people when you describe what you are, what kind of brewery. You always say it with that same intonation.
We're a Saison brewery.
We're a Saison brewery.
I never say that we're a Saison brewery. I say we focus on making.
No, you say
Saisons.
we're a Saison brewery.
Yeah.
Every time I heard you, hi, what is this? Well, we're a Saison brewery.
Self-deprecation.
Yeah.
But I never say that. Ironically, I don't view us as a Saison
We
brewery.
make farmstead.
We happen to.
We make historic farmstead ales.
It's the thing I care about the most as far as style goes, but it is certainly not the only thing I ever want to make. But because we make such a small amount of beer, I'm able to focus so specifically on it and get good at it. But we're a Saison brewery.
We're a Saison brewery. So really, I just was so flabbergasted about the just bald-faced, two-facery, whatever you want to call it. So many faces.
Hairless.
don't hold back. I mean,
Okay. Oh, believe me, I'm still holding back. Believe me, after we fade out, you'll hear what I really feel.
Yeah, it will fade out while you fade in. You're screaming.
One last comment while you're thinking about how to do that. The way Hill Farmstead laid theirs out is the same, very similar, but done like they've done it will attract people.
Right.
And
right.
if you don't believe in what they believe in, they don't care. Don't come here.
Right.
But I, think they're very right on with a very big part of the population that would believe in that stuff.
What about a brewery out there who hasn't really thought about it? They're not bad. They just haven't thought about it. Like, what should they do?
I'd look at these two examples as a start, templates, and say, how can I see myself in this? Can I articulate it in the same way? But the form, the architecture of both of those are very similar.
So like it kind of starts with introspection, and then
Don't try to look at what Brewdog did wrong, which was trying to paint by numbers. The PR firm was like, well, whatever your mission statement is, and it can be anything you want, and I want it to be you as long as it hits these 5 key points.
right.
Because that's what it seems like it is. Like, it needs to be 100% you, as long as these are the things that are really important to people these days, and you really need to hit these topics.
Yeah, I mean, it's an uncanny valley of, is that a document they created because they felt so strongly about those things, or is it a document that they created because they knew it would bring positive optics, and they can also care about them? But that Hill Farmstead one seems very obviously like Thoreauian, of like, I went into the woods and I thought about this, and and so I would believe a lot of that starts with introspection of the people that own and operate the brewery, and then about what they want from it, and then mold that around what is best for the organism as a whole, right? Like, because there can be something that's best for the brain that's not best for the body.
Don't forget, too, though, and tell me if I'm wrong, because you're the beer guys, I'm not. They have really high-quality products, correct?
Hill Farmstead?
And Spotted Cow.
Oh, yeah.
Both
yeah.
of them.
New
Right.
Gramps. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
part of it.
Right. For sure. Right. And there's certainly a fact that they have.
I mean, I guess they're both renowned globally, but aside from that,
And I think that's what they let drive revenue.
Right. Well, and
They
I think
don't compromise it by doing co-branding stuff with movies and other things.
Right. And I think that there's certainly people out there who are going to think that Hill Farmstead can afford to do that because their beer is so good and everyone drives up there to get it and they have such a profile. But I genuinely, and this might just be my personality, that it's the other way around. Their beer is so good because these were things that they believed and they
That's
thought
how it
about it.
started,
They
for
thought
sure.
about it this way.
Yeah.
And like the pursuit of making that beer that way is because these were the beliefs. And when those are clear, and not only to the person who's at the center of it, but everyone else that they bring into their orbit, that makes everyone else work up to a certain standard that can help you get to those places. And so while it may be intuitive to the founder brewer of something, it's not intuitive to everyone you're going to hire simply because your branding is nice and you make really good beers that everyone else is going to think about and understand why you make those beers the way you do.
And I would, I don't think this was, Hill Farmstead was written in May of 2022.
right,
This is what he's always believed.
Yeah.
right. And
Not out of crisis.
if I could give a little bit of advice, not that I have any place to do, but you know what? That's never stopped me in the past. So don't start from a place of where you should end up.
That's great.
I mean, because for me, socially conscious, environmentally friendly, those aren't the ways that I think of things when I wake up. No, those are things that are important to me and that I do in my own little ways when I'm making my kids their lunches. And I'm like, oh my God, there's so much plastic in the sea right now. I don't want to put things in these plastic bags. But that's not what I think about when I mean, we still use plastic bags if somebody wants them at the shop and stuff like that. So I can't really say that that's a guiding statement, but I want the world to be a happier, more friendly place. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. So, I don't know. I feel pretty good about that, even if it's not the, if my mission statement doesn't talk about, Mother Earth is the foundation of everyone, or I can be a jerk about anything, but like it's just be yourself, I think, and trust that you're a good person,
right.
and that your business will reflect the fact that you're a good person,
right? And like whatever the most,
and you're a bad person. That's why your company reflects that.
Exactly. And I mean, just whatever the most culturally
In front
relevant
of your
thing.
dad, I said that.
Well, I was raised right, so just because there's something that's the most culturally relevant thing that happens to also resonate with you in some way doesn't mean it has to be the central point of your mission, right? It can be a part of what you do here, but it's clearly not like why you guys. The Beer Temple doesn't exist to end global warming.
Right.
And it would be disingenuous to say so, but it would, if you want to say things like we've tried to not use plastic as much as possible to not further it, that might, obviously not the central tenet of it, but that exists somewhere in the reason for being.
And I do think, Chris, I mean, we've talked about this, before about the repeatable moments of joy. On the break, your tap room's busy. Mm-hmm. If it was empty, you might say, "Ooh, maybe we're not doing something right." But it seems like it's working.
It's a Tuesday and it's full.
It's Tuesday, yeah.
Every table.
So,
yeah, you're doing okay, Chris.
Those many Tuesdays where it's completely empty. So
as soon as you add that environmental part to your mission statement, everyone's gone. They know you're not. You know you're lying.
Son of a bitch.
and
I should go out there and make a big announcement. Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
right.
Get
a staff and some robes.
Mother Earth
Clang.
is the center of all of us.
Y'all done knocked her up.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to paper cups.
Yes, exactly.
You all get paper straws in your beers.
Exactly.
We didn't have straws before, but now we have paper
We don't.
ones.
Everyone, mandatory straws made of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh boy, Mike, is there anything else you want to say before we get on out of here?
I don't think so. Anything you want to add before we get out of here?
I just hope you guys and your listening audience felt I added some sort of value.
Chris, can we throw the links to the Hill Farmstead and the Brewdog mission statements in the show notes?
If you've
listened this long,
if you send them to me, I'll put them on.
Okay. I think that'd be fun
I'll
to
do
have them
that.
in there so people can see what we were talking about. Those collars.
Oh my God, they pop.
Yeah, show the three. The one, the Brewdog.
Oh, yeah, that's
Farmstead
true.
and New Glarus.
Yeah.
New Glarus's website looked like it was done 20 years ago, but its content is solid.
Part of their charm.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
They found one.
It doesn't have to be,
I bet they don't even have digital files, a lot of those logo labels.
Right. Exactly.
They just have lithographs.
For every can, Dan Carey is literally putting his thumbprint on every one of the thumbprint beers. Just like
people, you can get into the secret rooms of New Glarus, so you just put the thumbprint thing up to their
oh,
scanner.
right. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they don't have the Retina series, because then you can get to the top secret stuff.
That'd be hilarious. Well, thanks for coming on, Dad.
my pleasure.
Thanks for being. Yeah, thank you. Very nice. Very.
It's fun.
Very, very fun to have you on and talk about something that, I don't know, just fun to talk about. The sort of stuff that you want to talk about, like the Insiders Roundtable. Like, this is the sort of stuff we always talk about.
These are things we
Not always, but like.
we talk about them a lot.
We kvetch, but we talk about this too.
But I think from my outsider's perspective, you got 10,000 craft breweries in the country, and, there's something going on in an evolution of it, and some will win, some won't. But I think, again, back to my original comment about, do you want to be part of the past or part of the future? This is how you do it. Take a look at those websites.
And honestly, I mean, when our buddies, our industry buddies, Mike, and I want to, to speak, I don't know, what's the phrase, like speak out of school or something like that. But when we're like really just like dissing breweries,
It's always Brewdog.
it's never Brewdog.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding.
But it's maybe the beer, but it's not even really about the beer. All the breweries that we diss, it isn't about the beer. It's about
the beer.
their values. It's about their values. So whenever we're dissing their beer, you could say, well, yeah, but there's this other brewery you love that makes a very similar beer. I mean, I like Omnipollo.
Yeah.
They make some gimmicky beer.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it isn't about that necessarily.
No.
It's about their values.
Right. I think hopefully people that have listened to the show enough know that we don't really care about that. Like, you can make whatever beer you want. If
As
it's
long as you're
genuinely an
genuine.
expression of who you are and it's true to you, then we're going to love that.
And if you make
we might
it,
not love
and
the
it's
actual
like,
liquid. But
and if the liquid sucks, then like, hey man, sorry, I'm not going to drink it. But like, hey,
Right.
that's fine. And I'll say, I mean,
but yeah,
I've had some pastry stouts, and I've had some milkshake IPAs from the Pollo that I have been like, you know what? I got to give it to him.
Right.
I got to give it to him.
Yeah.
All right. I mean,
I think
'cause I can almost taste it in them, like the whimsy.
I think the reverse
totally.
is true too. You can have the most magnificent mission statement ever written, and if your beer sucks, it's not going to save it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, got to have both.
yeah.
Well, thank you to the Schalaus for being on.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for raising me, Dad.
that's so funny.
He's
I
my
mean, it's
best
amazing.
friend. That's the best part.
I mean, it's
Same.
great that we'll actually be able to air the episode with your dad on, because the episode with my dad on, we just yelled and cursed at each other the entire time. We couldn't actually have
we
it on.
shouldn't have recorded it during the Villanova game.
It's true. It wasn't fair.
That was a mistake.
It wasn't fair. All right, guys, we will see you next week. So long.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, again.